Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for the Introducing NITRO Studio webinar. This one is going to focus on NITRO Workflows and custom actions. Yesterday's webinar focused on NITRO Forms and the Power Portal. Some of you may have been at that one, but if not, or if you missed it, we have a recording. We'll be sending out a link to the recording for this one and the one from yesterday to everyone who signed up and registered for this webinar. And also, we'll be posting these online on our video library as part of our NITRO Studio site. So let's just jump into it and get going here. As I said, this webinar is on NITRO Workflows and custom actions. Again, Scott Restivo. You may have known me from yesterday's webinar, or we met at some shows. But if you don't, I'm Scott Restivo, President and CEO of Crow Canyon Software. Crow Canyon has been in business about 20 years now. We have offices in California, Rhode Island, and India, and we serve a worldwide customer base with our applications. We have several areas that we focus on, and primarily we're in the Office 365 and SharePoint world. We do some work in Azure, but our business applications, we have out-of-the-box solutions that run inside of Office 365 and SharePoint, and that's both on-premises and on Office 365. We have NITRO Studio, and we'll be exploring that a bit today. The NITRO Forms and Custom Actions are part of NITRO Studio. The NITRO Workflows and Custom Actions, are part of NITRO Studio, as well as the Forms and the Power Portal are part of NITRO Studio. So we'll go into that more. And we also do custom solutions that are tailored to specific needs that may be a takeoff on a program we already do, like an elaboration on customer service or purchasing or contract management or help desk, but also could be an application that is done from scratch and you have some specifications, you want something done. So we work inside the Office 365 and SharePoint space doing these three areas of out-of-box solutions, the NITRO Studio, and the custom solutions. So as far as business applications, we have been developing a number of these for many years. That's IT help desk, asset management, customer service, facilities, equipment, HR requests, etc. Really core business applications that are very useful for functioning of an organization. They want to move from some legacy program, maybe using email and spreadsheets, to using SharePoint and Office 365, whether SharePoint on premises or SharePoint in Office 365 for these business applications. Now, as part of that, when we were developing these applications, realized that SharePoint had quite a bit out of the box that laid down a good foundation for us to start with. So the sites, the libraries, permissions, the integration with AD, and all these other elements that come out when you have SharePoint out of the box. But to really do a full-fledged application, we realized we had to create more. We had to add forms, workflows, custom columns, and other factors that really produce a true business application. And for that reason, we developed this NITRO application service layer. Well, the name of it, we call it NITRO. It's really an application service layer that provides functionality on top of SharePoint and Office 365 so we can produce these applications in this custom development as well as allow a high degree of configurability and flexibility in the applications. And the NITRO layer basically focuses on three areas. One is the UI UX, that's the forms and portals, the engaging and empower users. I went over that in the webinar yesterday to some degree. There's always more to go into, but at least I covered some basics of that with our forms tool, our forms designer, and our Power Portal. Today we'll focus on the workflows and processes part of the NITRO application service layer. That includes our NITRO workflows and our custom actions. And then there's reporting analytics, which we'll do in a later webinar, which I haven't scheduled yet, but in June we'll arrange some webinar to go into the reporting and analytics part of the NITRO Studio. The point here is that all these elements act together to produce the NITRO Studio application service layer and produce the capabilities to produce applications and the functionality that you need to produce it. Now, if you use our NITRO Studio to build something from scratch, starting with lists and libraries and sites, that can certainly build up a good application out of that, because NITRO is a suite of enhancements to it that provides quick and easy development of flexible applications, whether it's simple or complex. It can be used with other tools, and you can see the more explanation on this at nitro.studio is the website. We also use the Studio as a basis for our out-of-the-box applications, which are more sophisticated, premium, full-fledged kind of applications. And some people want to go that route and just get the application pre-built, ready to go, and then have the flexibility of the underlying Studio to configure a workflow or form, tweak it here and there. Either way you want to go. Well, rather than go on and on, I think I'm going to jump right into the live demo of the NITRO Workflows and Custom Actions. So let me go over to that so we can go ahead and see that in action and see this really interesting Studio and what it can do. Now, what I have here showing is a customer service application for this imaginary company called Sticky Glue Company, and is a customer service where it's taking in requests from either existing accounts or from consumers who have bought or used their glue or other caulking type products, adhesive type products. And they're keeping track of all the complaints and issues and questions and problems that are going on. That's what this is set up. Now, underlying this is our NITRO Studio. Of course, there's SharePoint and Office 365 under it, but on top of that is our NITRO Studio. Now, here you can see a number of the apps that constitute, a number of the enhancements that constitute the NITRO Studio. There's the forms, the workflows, the reports, the Power Portal. We put those 4 ones, the more prominent ones at the top, but there's a number of other ones that provide also a high degree of configurability and flexibility, like the approval. A lot of people are using approvals, and that can go single or multi-level approvals based on certain conditions, et cetera, et cetera. Advanced lookup, where you're looking across different sites, pulling in information from different areas to give a full record of the what's needed on a ticket or a request or an order. Branding, cascaded lookup, formatting. We'll go into custom actions today. Email, where we're managing emails, and other ones that are equally important, but I don't want to go on and on. Just briefly, it's linked items, list rollup, print manager, tiles and dials, and user info filler. Well, those ones are all making up the whole Studio. So if you do subscribe to the Studio and use it in the site, you get the full complement of tools. We have the NITRO Studio with or without Power Portal. Power Portal can be by itself, or it can be NITRO Studio Plus, which includes everything, including the Power Portal, to get this. And that would be what's underlying your application. Now, you could start with a list, a SharePoint site with a list or two, and start building up from there, putting forms on it, workflows, doing some of the advanced lookups or approvals. Whatever's needed in your application can be built up from that. Today, we'll focus on workflows and custom actions. So back to the ticketing system here, the customer service system we have going. By the way, right here you're seeing tiles and dials. That's one of the apps that we were just looking at in that NITRO Studio. But anyway, now when a ticket comes in, or request, a complaint, issue, inquiry, whatever you want to call it, comes in, obviously there's some actions that need to be taken place. When items created, when items modified or assigned, or the status changes, when it's sat there and hasn't been dealt with, maybe the due date is met and nothing's been done. All these require certain workflows to happen in order to move the ticket further through to its completion and resolution. And that's what the workflows and custom actions do. They're there to streamline and automate the business process of taking in a request and then managing it successfully and seeing that it is not dropped or ignored, or especially with a customer complaint or inquiry, that's a very poor customer service if you don't answer it within a certain period of time and respond, and that's what gets customers really irked. So you really want to set workflows and ways to keep track and make sure it's moving through its process. And other requests may require certain approval. Maybe you have to refund some money, or you have to order something, so that might require an approval of the manager. So there's different kinds of things that can take place when a ticket or request or item is created. And that's what our workflows and custom actions will do. Now, there's several ways that the workflows and custom actions can operate. Workflows, when we talk about NITRO Workflows here, we're primarily talking about workflows that run based on certain certain events and timers. If we look at this workflow tool, it opens up, it shows you the existing workflows for the site. And then if we go to a new workflow, This is in the customer service site here that we're looking at. And this is the form. It has a help, links to help up here, links to contact us, contact our support, the NITRO Studio. But anyway, that's the framework of this app. And all of them are pretty similar to this, having this top and bottom bar. But in the middle, what's important here for the workflow. So we have a name, a site, a list, but the trigger here, what I call the trigger of the workflow, is when it's created, when it's modified, when it's deleted. It could be based on a time in the field, date time field inside the item, such as due date or response due or whatever. And also you can do schedule, where you say every such and such, like every hour, every day, every week. You can do scheduled or user triggered workflows here. And then from that, you will set up certain conditions and certain actions that happen on it. So these are ones that run on events or timers. And I'll go into this in a moment and set one up. But custom actions are a little bit different, because custom actions are also enacting certain processes and certain actions to take place, but the way they're activated is through interaction with the interface of the ticket itself. So let's go look at the ticket and see what I'm talking about here. Now, if you have workflows will run kind of behind the scenes based on timers or events, but if we are in the list view right here, and just another aside, this red priority comes from our conditional formatting app that's part of the NITRO Studio. But anyway, back to this, you can see that if you look at the items ribbon, when you have one highlighted, there are various activities up here: close, close ticket, assign to someone, self-assign. Those are custom actions that were put there. We'll see them when we go here and look at the custom actions. Self-assign, close, assign to someone, close ticket. These have been set to go show up in the ribbon right here. Here you go. So they're set to show there. They're also going to be set to show in this control block over here. We don't have any showing now, but I can show you that once we get that going. They can show up when you open up the item itself. Now this is opening up in our NITRO forms. We'll dig into that in a moment to show how the actions and the forms interrelate with each other. But here you can see those actions are here also. So also you can put buttons at the top, and I'll show you how that is done as part of action. So anyways, my point here is that the custom actions are ones that can have clickability, where the user can actually come in and click a button, click one of these icons or buttons, and then have the action run. Workflows run more behind the scene when an activity such as an item is created, modified, deleted, etc., or based on a time run. So there's two different kinds of ways these actions happen. One, user initiated by clicking the button; other, kind of system initiated by some kind of change or activity that happens. So let's cancel this and go back to this, looking at this workflows. We'll start with workflows here. Here you have the configured workflows. Well, the list is send mails. Well, we want to work on the tickets list. So here we have a tickets list. When an item comes into the tickets list, we want something to happen. So let's set up a workflow for something to happen when a ticket is created in the system. So here we're going to call it the name doesn't matter that much, but I'll say it's called item creation workflow, and it's going to be on the tickets list because that's where they come in. It's going to be on the tickets list, and it's going to be when an item is created. Now that's the trigger. That's what triggers it. When the item is created, what's going to happen? Well, that depends on your application, doesn't it? It could be many things that happen when an item is created. A lot of times people send an auto reply back to the user, or they notify some staff person, or they want to maybe create subtasks or start an approval process. In this case, let's notify the account rep. So in this case, we're going to go here, and we have a series of actions to choose from. And we're going to notify by sending the person an email. So we're going to add an action, a send mail action, and we're going to call it notify rep, a notify account rep. And then we have a template that we can choose here to send, because to send an email, you need an email template to send. So we have one already set up called account rep email template. We can look at that. We either can create a new one here or look at the existing one. Let's take a look at that template. So this template is set up, and you can see it has a name, a priority, what the subject will be with this value holder here, customer account. That's the account name of the account. And then here's the body of it, and you could do stuff like bold this and put all kinds of fancy stuff here if you want. But most important is it's pulling in the information from placeholders over here on the right that are part of the tickets list. So you have all these various site links, list link, item link, as well as all the fields that are here possible for you to put in here to make part of this template here. So we have that going here. We have the account rep template ready to send. Who we're going to send it to is determined by a user in the field. I mean, it's determined by what we select here. It could be user and group. It could be a group we send it to. So for instance, if you're doing a notification on ticket creation where you want to, it's a particular kind of ticket and you want to send it to a group, well, you have a group here and you send it to that and the whole group will get it, or individual will get it. It could be a specific email address that you send it to, or it could be chosen from a field that's on the ticket. In this case, we're going to do the account rep here that we're going to send it to. So it's going to send it to the account rep. Let the account rep know that a new ticket has come in from a complaint issue question for the account that he or she is responsible for, and it's going to be from, we're going to put in a specific email address on your system. This would be different because it'd be specific to your requirements there. Say at crowcanyon365.com. Just a generic address that's used as the from there. So we save that. We now have an action that's going to happen when the item is created. Notify account reps and send him or her email. But also here's another condition. Let's add a condition because we have two types of tickets in our ticketing system. One is from consumers and one is from account. So when we say the type of the ticket is account, then we're going to send this. Otherwise, it's a consumer ticket, and we don't need to send to the account rep because there is none. So if we save that, we now have a workflow when the item is created, when an item is added, running on the tickets list, such that when a new ticket is created here of the type account, it's going to send an email to the account rep. So you see we have two types of tickets, two types that we have here, account and consumer. And this is part of the dynamic forms I was showing yesterday, that if we change the consumer tab shows up. If we change the account tab shows up. But the account has an account rep. So in this case, we're going to say glue is not sticking, I don't know, something. And it's going to be from the account Hollywood Cabinet Shop. And the contact is Amelia Jones. Put our info, see the user info filler, filled in all the information here. We know her job title, contact phone, category and type. So complaint and I don't know, other, just to put something there. You can put something in the description. I'm the one filling it out, admin account. But when I send it in, the account rep here will be notified. The account rep for Hollywood Cabinet Shop will be notified of that. Now I could do stuff here also in that and create a response back to Amelia, telling her that we got your ticket, thank you very much, we'll be working on it. That's another option we could put there. And we can save this. So glue is not sticking. And James, well, the account rep, if I look at all the accounts here, this is Hollywood Cabinet Shop. And the accounts rep for Hollywood Cabinet Shop is James Restivo. And he should have gotten an email in his Office 365 account that there's a new ticket. And I could even send him, in fact, what I would do is put the link in there so that he gets a link to it and see what the ticket's all about. If we needed to do that, we go back and edit it. And we could go back to the item here. And then we could add more to it. We could edit the existing actions or add more to it if we wanted to. Here, so if we edit the action, and then we want to edit the template, we come in and say, let's put an item link here. A link to this item link, and add it to the body. And I put it in the wrong place, but let's put it into a better place here. I'm just trying to show that there's so much that can be done to make this very specific to how you want it to operate here. So ticket link, right here. So it'll be right there. I mean, make that priority bold, save it, ticket link, and then the person could click that and have it go, just so you can easily modify and adjust. So part of our whole goal here is to make it, put the power in your hands and make it as flexible and easy to change things as needed according to how circumstances change. Or maybe you set something up at first and realize, hey, it actually needs this also in here. So that is an issue, important thing to have here. So if we want to add another action, for example, of another send mail here, so that two things happen when the ticket is created, we could say auto reply to requester or contact or whatever. In that case, we'd create another template. I think, I won't go through all this, but I'll just make a quick one here to do that so that we keep moving along and look at the custom actions. But this would be the auto reply to requester template. And then you can make it up, look whatever you want. Thank you for your request. And then, whatever verbiage you want to put there, we will work on this. We will begin work on this right away. Something like that, right? And then you can also put in the title just to show that, you're talking about the same ticket here, right? Title, and put that in title here, add to the body. Make a simple one. Of course, if you had more time and stuff, you could really fancy it up how you wanted to. Now using this template, and you can send it to the user in the field of the contact email here, contact email address, and do OK. So it's going to send it to that, and again, that generic address just to do that. So now we have someone going back to Amelia Jones, an auto reply. So that's two, we've already created two actions quite easily on this item creation. Now there could be others, create subtasks, notify staff. We could do another one where we say, depending on the type of ticket is consumer, we do another item creation for consumer tickets and do other kinds of actions that take place as part of that. So it's very flexible and very useful tool here. Let's look again at some of the other kinds of actions we could do here. We could create another item when this item is created. Maybe we want to create another subtask for as part of this, depending on what kind of conditions are here, what kind of category it is, or who it's from, or the type of complaint it is, or what product it's about, or whatever. You can create different responses or different email templates out, or different tasks for people, depending on the conditions that are in the incoming ticket when it's created. You can update an item. So you could update this item, like say you want to set an SLA and say, well, if it's this type of ticket and this kind of conditions, we're going to set the due date to be, or response date and due date. We're going to set response to due today and due date due in 2 days, whatever. We can, or set the priority or whatever. You can do various other things here, including invoke another workflow if you wanted on that to make that happen. So you can get quite elaborate, and that really helps streamline and automate the processes. Now, if you wanted to set these up and move these around, let's see if you can do that on this one. Change order. Yeah, you can change the order of these, how they run, and which one runs first if you wanted to. So you can have an elaborate set of actions going here in order to what happened when the item is created. So let's save that and go on there. So that is a workflow on item creation. Let's set up another workflow, and then we'll go into custom actions after that. But let's go to the workflow here and set up an escalation here. So what happens sometimes is when a ticket is, escalation workflow, when a ticket is sitting there, when the due date has not been, the due date is passed, we want to take some action. So here we go, based on the timer and the due date here. It's going to be when the due date, let's say 2 hours after. It could be anytime you want, hours, minutes, days, weeks. Let's say 2 hours after. You can repeat it if you want, run only during business hours. And that's going to happen on the tickets list when the due date is 2 hours after this is a kind of escalation. Well, what do you want to do on that? Well, first thing we want to do is update the item to change the priority to high. So this is going to be set priority to high and on the current item. And we're going to add a column mapping where we say the priority here, it gets the value of high. That's simple to do that. We now have an action that says set the priority to high. We can also do where we want to reassign it to someone. So we're going to reassign it to, let's say, Pavan. Assign to Pavan, the current item. And again, a column map in here that's going to say the assigned staff will now be Pavan Kumar. So we're going to update that. It's going to reassign it to Pavan. And we're also going to send an email out to James. And we add that action. And we're going to send email to James or Stevo using the template we already created, escalation email. We can take a look at that if we want and say overdue ticket, blah, blah, blah. You can put whatever you want, links to the ticket, just like we were looking at previously. And then it's going to go to a specific address. Well, let's take it from here because he's in the AD. So it goes right to James or Stevo and OK. And again, that from address that we type in would be here. So there we go. Crow Canyon at Crow Canyon 365. So incredible flexibility on what you want to do here in terms of how you want to create these. Now, if you want to change the order they run in or also that. Another thing is you can also set conditions on the action. So say the condition here was set prior to high, well, maybe you only run that if the priority is not high. So you can have a condition if priority is normal, set it to high, or not equal to high, set it to high. But you can put conditions on conditions, or it could be send email to James if the category is, one particular brand, sticky glue, and maybe the send email to somebody else if the brand is one of the other brands. So we go here and go here, okay. In our tickets, we have a brand, and the brand equals sticky glue, right? Sticky glue, one of the name of the brands. Others are Super Caulk and Weather Boss and things like that. So, you might say, okay, only when it's the brand sticky glue, send it to James. If it's a different brand, send the email to somebody else. You get very specific and granular about how you want to control what happens when the workflow runs. So I could save that, and then we could put send email to James on sticky glue, send email to somebody else on another brand or product there. So let's save that. And there we go. We now have this 2 workflows going here. I clicked the bottom thing here. So we now have 2 workflows on the tickets list, and you could add more and more and more that run, and it can be run on any one of the lists. If you change something in the account or change something in the contacts or want to update this, update that, you're going to keep a good record of that by when the item's created or it's modified, or based on a time field or a scheduled time. You can execute any one of these number of actions and compound them as well as have their own conditions on it. Makes for a very powerful way to control and streamline the application. So let's go back to the application here. We now have this ticketing system, this customer support system, where when items created, certain things are going to happen. We're going to auto reply to the user. We're going to notify the account rep. Set up very easily with that workflow manager to do that. Also, when the due date has passed, then we're going to take an escalation action automatically without any intervention by anybody to send an email to set the priority to high, reassign it to Pavan, and send an email to James if the brand is sticky glue. So that's the kind of thing where you can create these either simple or complex applications using just the workflows manager there. Now, to go on into the custom actions, let's take a look at the custom actions, which are ones that are user initiated because you can click a button or click a item ribbon in the item and all that. Okay, so we'll move into that right now. So here we have the NITRO Studio apps. We have the workflows we just were looking at. We have the custom actions. Let's go look at the custom actions. There are 4 custom actions currently on the tickets list. And we create a new one right here if we want. So these 4 are set up already. So let's create a new one. in that new custom action, maybe you don't want to wait for the due date to escalate it. Maybe the person just called up angry or a little irritated why no one's worked on his or her ticket or hasn't had a resolution, so you want to escalate it automatically. You don't want to wait for the 2 hours after the due date. So we're going to call it escalate, and you can put a tooltip in if you want. It's not really that necessary. Escalate ticket. And then you can decide where it's going to show. Where is this button in action going to show? Well, it could be, let's click them all. Why not? But it's going to be on the display form. That's when the ticket opens. It could be an edit control block. That's this right here is the edit control block, the ECB as it's known. This is also the list view ribbon. That is when I'm here and it's up here in this ribbon. The first one, display form, I didn't go over that, but that's when you open it up and you see it in the display form, up in the ribbon of the display form up here. So it's up here, right? So that's what you're deciding to do in this custom actions, and then you can enable it for multiple items or just one. Because what happens here, if you do go to the list ribbon here and some of these are deactivated because they only are set to run up for a single item. See how those got deactivated there? And if you go back to one, it's activated again. And another aside here, print is part of our print manager. Part of our new NITRO Studio is a print manager. So that's what this is showing up. And the Crow Canyon email is part of our email manager, part of the studio. We're not covering those today, but they're in the NITRO Studio. Just and more, a little plug there for more of the NITRO Studio capabilities and what they provide. So, okay, back to the custom actions. We're having this escalate one. And here's the icon. Well, all the icons you see were like that, but you could, here on the ribbon, I mean, they're all the same. But you can certainly change this to something else if you want to upload a file and change the icon right here. Right now it's just using default. Over here also, when you show it, there's also where you want to get a confirmation message saying, are you sure you want to escalate this item? Or you can put your custom message in. Do you want to continue on error? Do you want to auto close? This kind of thing. So you have a lot of variations of what happens when the action runs. Then what happens when to execute the action? Okay, we'll allow everyone to do it at this point. And what actions are going to happen? What constitutes an escalation here? Well, same kind of similar things we did previous, but let's do this. We'll update the list item. And we'll, again, set priority to high again. And here we're going to go here and say column mapping, and same kind of idea. We're going to set priority to high. High. Okay, there we go. Okay. That's one action that's going to take place when we press that button. We can do another action. Again, we had that one reassigned to Pavan. So that could be here again. We go to a column mapping here of assigned staff. And we're going to put here the Pavan Kumar. Ooh. Okay. 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 And then we can do something else that's kind of interesting. We could go here and say, okay, let's change the set due date to today. Okay. Let's see how that's done. So we go here to column mapping again of due date. And then we just put in the function of today. Now, there's a number of other functions that get a little more involved, and I won't go into that right now, but you can concatenate certain strings. You can add, do some calculations and do functions that will put, placeholders and functions that will make the value set to those. But I won't go into that now. Just a simple one here is today. So we're going to set the due date to today for this. And then we can send an email out to James and all that. So I guess I'll do that. Send email. Again, that could be based on the brand, when the condition is the brand is sticky glue right there. We're going to send it from this address to James, user in the group, James here. No, user group, James, there it is. I'll send it to him there. Okay, and default template, we use, I think I created one already, an escalation email template. And various other things, including attachments, save to the history if you wanted, and do okay. So now there's 4 actions that happen when you press that button. that, and whatever works for you in your application, whatever constitutes an escalation. Now, it could be something where you send a purchase request to the finance system. You could send a work order task to somebody else. You could do any kind of number of things with these buttons. And then what happens after it, list view ribbon, reload. Let's just reload it so that it refreshes the screen and save that. And now we have an escalate button that's showing up everywhere. Escalate in those 3 areas we talked about here. If I go back and refresh the screen, we should see that we now have an escalate here. Yep, escalate. We now have escalate here in the ECB at a control block, and we have escalate here on the display ribbon right here. So that's, I put it in all 3 places just to show you it's possible. When you're doing this, you may want your action only to show up some of those places or wherever. So let's go here to one where priority is not high. Again, that's conditional formatting making it high. Well, this one's not high, so let's go here, glue is not sticking, and we'll go escalate it. Well, that's a confirmation message. You don't have to have that. That was an option in that custom actions. I send a priority to high, reassigning the Pavan, set due date to today, and send an email to James. I'm trying to send an email to James. So it should be sending it out to him and getting him an email there, and then we'll be able to see that these changes have taken place on the ticket. It will turn to high here. It'll have a assigned to Pavan. Oh, I think what it was is there's no brand there, so it doesn't know what to do with the brand. Okay. So now you see that it's set to high, and let me go in here and edit this so I add a brand to it. Related items, right here, work order, additional information. Let's put the brand as sticky glue and then save it. Okay, there we go. Let's try that again. It did change it to high. Let's do it the other ones here of escalate. Sure you want to escalate. There we go, there. So now it did all 4 actions like that. Reassign to Pavan, set due date to today. You can see the due date is today, priority is high, and let's look at the assigned staff. If it set the assigned staff, it should have set that also on here. Well, let me refresh. It may take a moment to refresh that and do that workflow to actually happen. So we'll check back on that in a moment so that it reassigns it to Pavan and go from there. So we have the escalate action here. Now there's other things that can be done with the escalate. Here is go into our forms. If we go to the NITRO forms and we look at the tickets list and we go, we're going to look at the form that this ticket is using right now. And this correlates with the custom actions, because now not only that could we put I went over a lot of this forms yesterday, but I want to show that in this form, you can also add a custom action here. So now if we go to actions, we can drag over a custom action and put it right here on the form. Now you have your action settings. What's it going to be called? Well, we're going to call it escalate. And we can use an image or an icon here. But what action is it going to run? Well, one of those actions we just created, which was escalate. You can look at the custom actions, other custom actions that exist, and put those there also. You can have multiple buttons up here if you want. So you want to have multiple buttons, you can. So here we're going to go back and put the escalate on, take it off. So here we go, escalate, and have the escalate action. There we go, like that. So now it says escalate, and we can change the icon to be something different. Maybe something like I don't know, something like this, I don't know, whatever. So whatever works, but it changes the icon there. You can make it all caps, whatever you want to do, you know, for the title there. Escalate. That will escalate the ticket using that escalate action that we just created. So there it is sitting right there. Now, another thing you can do with this is also set permissions so that the escalate button only shows up for certain groups. This would be show button, show escalate button. And you could show or hide it for certain people. So you might want to show it for some people or hide it for other people. So you can show it for when the user groups are admins or something like that, or users in group, you know, whatever you want to do, or based on certain conditions. So that makes the button show or not show, depending on how you want to have it shown and who you want to show it to or hide it from. So only certain people have the right to escalate this ticket. So if I go ahead and publish this, it will now become part of the ticket form. In that case, maybe you don't need to put escalate on the list ribbon or the other places on there on the form. So we go back here and we reload this. Okay, Amelia Jones, glue is not sticking. Here's escalate now. That was not there before. So we hit that and we escalate. Again, you want to escalate. It's going to do the same things again. And close it, and there we go. Right? Okay, so we can close it. Now, that's another way to run and interact the forms with the actions here. So you have your forms. We can have an action here. Now, we can go one step further with all these actions also. So if we're on the new ticket or on the display form, we can set up other types of actions here. This is the new form we're on right now. We now have a script action and a submit action. And I was talking about this yesterday in the webinar where we can substitute in a different button here. Instead of save, we could put our own submit down here. And that will, you know, give it a name like save or whatever, and replace this one right here. And that will give us control over what happens when the ticket is saved. So we're starting to get into some pretty elaborate ways we can use these forms and actions to really automate and streamline the business processes here. So in this case, we can hide the save button. We can call this one submit. Maybe, you know, whatever icon we want there, apply. We need to enter some function here that actually is going to do. So this case, we would have maybe a custom action. I didn't set this up for this demo, but basically, you know, when you submit it, maybe you do something like create a set of subtasks, or maybe this would be send for approval, and then it creates approval tasks. So instead of just as simple as submitting or saving the ticket, you're now hijacking, in a sense, the save button and saying, I can run some scripts that go out and read a database, or set up something in a database. It could write to the database or read from the database using some simple JavaScript here, or it can take one of the custom actions that we already created and then do that, such as create a bunch of subtasks that are related to it, or create an approval task or approval process that is part of it. Invoke one of those workflows of approvals when you submit it, when you press the submit button here. And so you've in a sense, overridden or taken control of that save and providing more immediate and real functionality that's needed. And that could be in the new form or the edit form. Now, in addition to that, which is, I'll go back to using the regular save button here, you can go in here when you're in the ticket form, and then your script actions, this, I think you guys will like this, is that you can come in here and start dropping in buttons right in the middle of the form itself that do certain actions. So this would be a case where maybe you have a field here called member number, and you type in the member number, and the CSR, or the person taking in the call, will want to look up the information, either about the from a database or from a CRM or from a ERP system. It may be order number, it may be member number, it may be account number if you're doing banking. These are real world scenarios that we've enacted for our customers in the banking industry, in the healthcare industry, in the insurance and finance world, in the order processing, manufacturing, where they have to deal with orders, or with nonprofits who have members. We've done these kind of things. So you put in a member ID right here, and then you go out here, and in here you just write some JavaScript that goes out and connects to the database or the other system through some API, and then makes the call and brings it back. And these functions right here are what we're giving. This is a little bit of JavaScript. And then what happens is these are context of the form, context. So you can grab that and put in that what comes back from the database into fields into the form here. And there's some sample scripts here and things like that, or we can help you write that stuff up. But it really advances the form's capability and the application's capability to be that much, to a whole nother level of interactivity. So the form is just not taking information you type in, but actually it's reacting in real time to information you put in. You press the button, and it's going to go out there and grab that information and pull it in with the right, setup of the call to the database. Pretty cool stuff and very useful, even though it looks a little technical when you're looking at it in this, but when you see it in action, it's really, really quite cool. Another thing I point out here again about these permissions on this button is that you could say, well, we only want certain people to be able to go out and query the database like that, for example, or we only want certain people even to see this member ID in the first place or account ID in the first place. So you can set that up for under certain conditions, these buttons show in fields, and other conditions they don't. So quite a lot of actions and possibilities of the interaction between the actions and the forms. Now, this is not workflows and custom actions. These are script actions that run inside the form designer, or submit actions. But as I was showing you in the display form here, I'm going to continue without saving. You can come here and put in the button here that does relate to a custom action, and then put another one in if you want, here. Really cool stuff. And I would encourage, say close ticket here. I would encourage you to talk to us about what your needs are. We really see this as a cooperative venture where we're creating applications, you're creating applications, and it's a tool where we want to make, NITRO Studio is a tool we want to make as useful as possible for people out there to do stuff. Our experience comes from real world creation of applications. It's not something we just sat around one day at a coffee shop and said, let's do this or anything. This comes from the real world of working with thousands of organizations over the last 20 years, and to realize what they need and to put it into place. And this environment of SharePoint and Office 365, it's not always easy, but we've learned a lot of tricks and methods, and we developed the studio based on that. And this is in use. This is in use in our applications in many places around the world already. So we're really excited to be releasing this more into the public. I could go into more and more webinars on this. I could talk, I do a whole webinar, I realized just now, on that script action function and how to do that, and how to create some really sophisticated applications that are reading databases. Or we could go into some of the other tools into NITRO Studio apps. Right here, there's a lot going on with, besides the forms and workflows and custom actions. I could go deeper into the Power Portal. So much to explore here, and I really hope people are interested. There's this nitro.studio website that we have now. You get a 30-day trial. I'll send out a link to the trial if anyone's interested. Free 30-day, give it a try. It's running on Office 365 right now. We do have some on-premises web parts that are corollaries of this, but primarily the NITRO Studio runs on Office 365 at the moment. You can look at all the components, the pricing, various resources we have here that we're building, and really get a feel for if this is going to help you. And I'm sure if you're into application creation and want an application creation platform that's reasonably priced and full featured and has the experience of 20 years of Crow Canyon's efforts behind it, you're going to find this a very valuable and interesting and capable system to use, I believe, on there. Now, I'm not sure if there's any questions. I think James has been handling questions and looking at them. If we don't get to them during the demo, during today, we can go in and send you email after. And the other thing we always run into with the webinars is it's not interactive. So I don't know what you want to, what area you want to look at specifically or have a question about, but we'd be very glad to do one-on-one demos, live demos where you talk to us and say, hey, Scott, can you show me this feature? Or hey, James, let's have that feature. and we go through this and show you exactly what can and can't be done inside the NITRO Studio. So hopefully this webinar has shown you a good amount about the workflows and custom actions that are part of this studio, and how they interact with the NITRO forms that we have to produce these, be able to produce these sophisticated applications that are sending emails or updating the items or creating other items or starting approval processes or doing auto reply, all the things that are really necessary to make your application that much more sophisticated and better. Even if it's a simple one, it'll be a lot better with the few little additions that NITRO Studio can add. But if you have a more complex situation, the NITRO Studio can handle that also. So I think I'll take a look at the questions here and see if there's anything that's I can see I need to answer or has been answered here. Let me go here. Oops, where's the questions? And see what we have here in the questions. Drag and drop, trying to open that up to the larger. Oh, here. Okay, I see a. Oh, yeah, there have been a few. Okay, and James has been answering them. Okay, so if you did have any questions that don't get answered or you want to see more, let me know. I'm glad to hear James jumped in and answered a lot of those questions. Okay, well, I appreciate all your time attending this webinar, and we hope to hear from you. And if you want to start a trial, it's very easy. Just I'll send a link, or you can go to that nitro.studio. Hopefully it's an easy web address to remember, nitro.studio, and we'll start the NITRO journey with you from there, and be here to help you out and learn from each other as to what the needs are and what your requirements are and how we could make NITRO Studio even better and more adapted to your particular requirements of developing applications on top of SharePoint and Office 365. All right, thank you for attending, and I think I'll end it there, and I'll go on, talk to you, hope to hear from you soon, any one of you soon. Thank you.